Hey everybody, it's Michael. I'm back. Got another set of keys for you. This one is to the car club's new Lotus Emira. You know, I got to think about keys. I actually like this key. It's kind of mollusky shaped. It's not trying too hard. It does say this though, a little Easter egg. It says, for the drivers. Aren't keys always for the drivers? I don't know. I get it. I get what they're doing. Very nice. Anyway, Lotus Emira. This one covered in dark verdant, I think is the color, which is dark green. Looks nice. I think it looks good. I think it looks like a grown-up Lotus. We've had all manner of Lotus: Elise, Exige, Evora, Amira. See, so you got to go through the history of them all, and that's pretty much why it's at the car club. But there are some other reasons too. But why don't we get into it? Talk about it. We'll see what it's like to drive. We'll talk about why we put it in the fleet. Welcome back to the Classic Car Club test track, which is West Side Highway of Manhattan. So the Lotus Emira, kind of an interesting car. As I said earlier, we've had most of all the versions from the last 20 years. We've had a few Elises, Exiges, we had an Evora, and now the Amira. So why do we have an Amira? The first reason is that a Lotus always should have a space at the Classic Car Club, mostly because of its heritage in racing. So Colin Chapman, who started Lotus, was an F1 hero. Lotus created downforce in race cars. A lot of firsts came from Lotus, which is just a little ramshackle shop in the hinterlands of England. I was actually at their factory just a few years ago. I mean, man, it is off the grid. But they're still producing cars with a bit of a racing heritage, and that's pretty cool. The other reason for the Emira is Lotus has gone through a lot of changes, and now it's predominantly owned by Geely in China. And so they just spent all of this money building out their factory in England, making it robotic. But really only this and the Avija, I think it's called, their electric supercar will be made there. Most all the other cars going forward are going to be made in China. And so this is the last fully combustion engine sports car they're going to make. One of the last cars to still be built by hand in England. And feels like a little bit of an end of a particular era. A new one starting. I can't say that that'll be bad. And it also seems like the future of what they will build, Lotus that is a little bit up in the air, because a few years ago they said they were only going to make electric cars and they wanted to sell 100,000 of them in, I think, 2028. Granted, in 2021 or 2, I think they sold 1,400. So, you know, they're traditionally made in very small batches, probably because of financial reasons. And now they have massive funding from a Chinese company and they're doing something completely different. Last I read, maybe some of those cars are going to turn into hybrids. Who knows, but you're not going to get something like this anymore. So let's indulge. What's also nice about it is this is the first Lotus that's actually nice to be in. They're all great to be in from a driver perspective. I mean, they're just usually pretty bang on. But usually I could blind myself and know I'm in a Lotus if I grab the center console and move it around 6 inches in either direction. But this one does not do that. It also has really nice materials inside. It has these like really nice, I guess, laser cut metal inserts everywhere. It's quite grown up, and I think that if one was to consider getting a Amira, the other car they're probably thinking about would be a Porsche Cayman. I assume they're in the same ballpark, let's say. So maybe these are all the reasons you would consider this instead of that. It's a bit grown up. Let's call it a sophisticated Lotus. One thing I really like, I just noticed, is underneath the center console, there's a metallic mesh around the gear selector, and you could actually, I guess if you're the passenger, you could see the mechanics of the gear shifting on this manual gearbox. We have a manual gearbox. It's the same gearbox and gearbox feel in all the other Lotuses, which is a bit of slush-o-rama. It just kind of slides in. It's not the most rewarding thing, but it works, and that's cool. It definitely feels a lot more Lotus-y than our last Lotus, which was an Evora. Now, these aren't reviews. There's other people who review cars. I just drive them, and I try to tell you why they're in the fleet, but I will do a little comparison. I really didn't like the Evora. It drove really nice, but it felt like it was disintegrating every mile you drove it. This is quite a robust little bit of kit. And man, it is fun. The motor is a 400 horsepower supercharged Toyota V6. You could also get a AMG 4-cylinder, but that only comes with sequential gearboxes, so this is the one for the manual. You know, it doesn't sound great or anything, but I don't think it needs to. It does its job. You can hear it sucking air. That's kind of fun. But mostly, it's really nice to drive. Proper little sports car. It doesn't need 700 horsepower. It doesn't need active aero downforce. It's just great balance. Engine in the middle, so don't go too crazy. Just good proportions. And like every Lotus, the steering is absolutely razor sharp. Unlike most Lotuses in the past, when you put your foot down on this, I'm not going to say it's got a wall of torque or anything, but I guess the supercharger it just gives it that kind of boost, and you know, it makes you feel a little fizzy. Actually, I quite like it. This car has got a place in the car club because you might not want to buy it, but you definitely want to drive it. You can probably make like a safer choice, like I said, like a Cayman or something, but what's the fun in that? I don't know. Everybody's got I'm not gonna say everybody has a Porsche, but car folk have Porsches, you know? This is something different. So who would buy it? It's a bit of a renegade's car, right? It's a bit rock and roll. He likes it. It's kind of BMW, see? It's a million BMWs, but it's probably only a couple thousand of these, so it'll always be unique. I think it looks great on the road. It has that real British character to it where it just looks gorgeous, and maybe it doesn't have all the wings and all the shit moving around and carbon bits and all this and that, but I think British car manufacturers make things look really nice, right? Like if you think of Rolls Royces or Bentleys, there's a sophistication to it. Ineos Grenadier I think looks great if you want to call that a British car. And this certainly fits in there. McLaren's the one that puts all the doohickeys on their cars, but even they still have a more sinuous look than the more angular German and Japanese cars of the moment. So it's kind of posh. Not only does it get up to speed really quickly, it also, you can slow it down quite nicely too, which if you've watched any of these videos, you know I'm into cars that actually stop. Keeps you from scaring yourself. I do see how you could get yourself into trouble in this though. And you definitely want to go faster than you should, and I think that that's a sign of a really nice road-going sports car, you know? Yeah, and Porsches and McLarens and all those supercars, you wind up going kind of fast, but I don't think you really get the sensation of how insanely fast you are going. With this car, which is pretty light and more power than anybody actually needs, and it's so nimble that you push it a little bit, and it is December and there are puddles on the road, and there is a big concrete divider there, and it's got this short little wheelbase, and maybe darty steering is not a compliment. I mean it to be a compliment, like razor sharp steering. You do feel like you're approaching the envelope a little bit, even just on a public road, which is quite fun, right? Isn't that why we drive cars? To get a little zing out of them? So this one certainly delivers. Where do you drive a Lotus Emira? Kind of, you could drive it anywhere because it's very approachable. Also, it's really small, so you can park it anywhere you want. It's a little bonus that New Yorkers think about. However, I would recommend taking 3 days and driving this thing down the Blue Ridge Parkway just to eat up all of those third and fourth gear corners, which I think this would be excellent at. And then end your trip at Barber Motorsports Park and see if you can slide into a track day, because I bet you this would be a real fun arrive and drive car on a racetrack. It's not going to set lap records or anything like that. It's a road car, but I bet you it's I bet it's one of the few cars I would really enjoy, road-going cars I would really enjoy on a racetrack. Yeah, that's what you do. So thanks for coming for a ride with us in the Amira and sticking around while we get it dirty on the slushy New York City streets. You know, it's a brand that started in Formula One and racing and made great sports cars throughout its history. So one reason to have it in the club, and then this one, the last of an era, and the company moves into a new direction. So I think it's quite a special car, actually. It deserves a spot in the club, and I hope to see you here behind the wheel of it.